The Twitter files have exposed a lot of the control that the government and its officials have over social media, and how they used it to not only control the narrative, but used it to an extent that they controlled how we could respond to particular events and news. Is it now surprising to hear that another government official is calling out the censorship of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse? Now you have to wonder why. Why would they want this done? Maybe it's because they're afraid of more of us going to rush to the banks and take our hard-earned money out of the banking system. Now you also have to wonder just how much of our money can be supported by physical cash, and are more bank crashes coming? Man, oh man, I can already sense that this video is probably going to be suppressed pretty hard. But hey, I'm here to give you guys the bitter facts, not sugar-coated lies. And one of those facts is that yes, other banks are hitting lows, with some being predicted to crash any day now. Can you believe that? Just recently, we were being told of the strength of our economy and our banks, and then days after, we're preparing for more banks to turn to dust. Now, before I continue, please take a second and smash the like button for the video. It totally helps out a lot and shows that you guys are supporting the channel. I really appreciate that, you guys. And if you're in need of your daily dose of the truth when it comes to the state of our economy, the stock market, the housing market, and what's really going on in Washington, D.C. that affects our lives, our families, and our bank accounts, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And for the best way to invest in gold, be sure to hit the link in the description down below of this video. So guys, control is a word that you don't want to throw around too often, not unless you're talking about video games in which controllers are essential. But when it comes to our cash and control over it, mixing the two terms, they can be highly suspicious. And with the recent crashes that we've been seeing with the banks, it's very clear that control is being taken into consideration. They don't want you taking your money out of the bank to buy gold. They don't want you buying silver. That's a no-no. They want you holding on to your wealth in their banks. Now, one senator even said that social media should be censored to prevent bank runs. Government officials censoring social media? Who would have thought that they would think of such a thing? And let's not go around an entire circus to get to the point. It was Senator Mark Kelly who called out for this censorship with a post from Michael Schellenberg, an independent journalist, saying that, quote, a Democratic senator essentially asked whether there was a program in place to censor information on social media that could lead to a run on the banks, end quote. The problem is that a bank run that could run up to the trillions of dollars cannot be met by the FDIC, and it's only going to lead to ATMs shutting down, with banks telling customers to just come back another day. Let's be honest, guys, the FDIC just doesn't have enough money to cover all of that, and that's a really terrifying reality that can happen right here in our country. But don't take my word for it. Here's the FDIC talking about it last year.
It should be there. It should be accessible when people need to know. But I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim, right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do, that we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
Well, there you have it. Some of us have more faith in the banking system than the very people in the FDIC. But keep that on the hush-hush, all right? That's what they're telling us with this. Experts are predicting that SVB, they were just the beginning, and even more are about to come. Look at this one article about Credit Suisse. It says here that, quote, Credit Suisse shares fall to an all-time low as bank announces it has found weaknesses, just hours after Wall Street expert predicted that it would be the next to fall after SVB. End quote. And it's not just Credit Suisse. We're now seeing smaller banks, much like how small businesses suffered during the health crisis, but they're now being crushed as investors are moving their money into bigger banks. Now, again, much like smaller banks were hit with these incredibly unexpected failures, while bigger banks are mostly in the know of what's coming next. I mean, Silicon Valley Bank's CEO sold almost $4 billion of stocks less than 2 weeks before the bank crashed.
Insiders at Silicon Valley Bank sold more than $84 million worth of stock just over the past 2 years. A trust owned by CEO Gary Becker sold $3.6 million of shares less than 2 weeks before that bank shut down. Since 2021, he has sold just under $30 million in total. Most of those sales were at a share price between $200 and $600 a share. The CFO, the COO, and the CMO also selling millions worth of shares. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna saying Becker should give back the proceeds from the most recent stock sale, and, quote, there should be a clawback of any of that money. Becker sold the shares as part of a 10b5-1 pre-scheduled sales plan that was filed at the end of January, and he often purchased lower price options as part of those sales. That February sale would not have been allowed under new insider selling rules imposed by SEC Chair Gary Gensler. The rules require executives to wait at least 90 days between when they file the plans and the first sales. The rules will take effect for plans filed after April 1.
Like, are they just smart with their investments, or do they have prior knowledge of things happening before they happen? And are you guys aware of how hot our money printers have been since the health crisis? And just to drive the point home here, there is no feasible way for physical cash to catch up with our country's money supply and circulation. Did you know that we only have like $53.2 billion in physical cash in the country? You could see it here in the billions. So back in 2021, we had around $17.7 billion of $100 bills around. And the same can be said for the other amounts. But what about our money supply? And just to be clear, these are two different things. Our money supply includes financial assets held mainly by households, such as savings deposits, time deposits, and balances in retail money market mutual funds, in addition to more readily available liquid financial assets as defined by the M1 measure of money, such as currency, traveler's checks, demand deposits, and other checkable deposits, end quote. So how much is that at right now? Oh, just $21.27 trillion. No biggie. Do you guys see the vast difference in these amounts? And do you see how scary this can become? So just imagine what happens when bank runs happen. And that's what's probably going to happen when they admit that they can't afford to give us our money in cash. That most of the money that we have is backed up by a house of cards, and it's a house built on sand. It's so fragile that I can't even begin to show you guys how bad this can become down the road. Now, I'm not pushing anyone to take any of their money out of the banks. But if you ask me, it's probably a good time to look at protecting our wealth through precious metals, gold, and silver, because you wouldn't want to wake up one day and just realize, hey, money's all gone. And this is why I leave a link in the description of this video for one of the best ways to invest in gold. You guys can check that out if you want. But again, you decide, it's your opinion, and that's the beauty of our community. I always see great conversations in the comments. So please do share your thoughts down below. So what are your plans for the future at this point? It would be nice if you could focus on opportunities to strengthen your cash flow. Maybe start a side hustle, small business, invest in the real estate market, maybe the stock market, find ways to make money while you sleep, right? But what does that entail? It takes hard work and the right pieces of knowledge to be able to piece it all together. Now, if you want to learn more about these different money-making methods, feel free to join us over in the Patreon community. That's where we discuss that. I look forward to hearing from you guys. But before I go, please don't forget to drop a thumbs up for the video and subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. I do appreciate you guys watching. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you on the next one.